I remember the exact moment my sister, Chloe, decided she was going to ruin my life, or at least the one thing I had left of our father. It wasn't dramatic. There were no raised voices, no thrown dishes, just a casual, almost bored tone as she sipped her iced matcha latte and told me I was being an idiot. The subject, as it always seemed to be these days, was the house. The old, ramshackle, beautiful beach house perched precariously on a strip of sand down in Port St. Joe. It had belonged to my father, Max, and before him, my grandfather. It was the only place I ever felt like I truly belonged, the walls scarred with decades of salt water and memory. "Look, Jamie, I'm being generous," Chloe said, tapping a manicured nail on the polished marble countertop of her pristine, custom-built kitchen. Generous. That word tasted like ash in my mouth. She had everything. The perfect husband, 2 perfect, terrifyingly well-behaved children, and a net worth that made my freelance writing income look like pocket change. She didn't need the house. She wanted it because she saw an opportunity, a weakness, and she always went for the jugular. "It's falling apart. You know the foundation needs serious work. Dad hadn't updated the electrics since the Cold War. You can't afford the upkeep, and frankly, you can't even afford the taxes this year, can you?" She didn't phrase it as a question. It was a statement, delivered with the casual cruelty only a sibling who knows your deepest financial anxieties can muster. And she was right, mostly. After Dad passed away 6 months ago, everything had become a struggle. The house was left to both of us, 50-50 in the will. I was the one who adored it, the one who spent every summer there, the one who drove down every other weekend just to make sure the sea hadn't completely reclaimed it. Chloe hadn't set foot inside for 5 years, not since a minor hurricane chipped the paint on her imported sedan. But now it was a legacy, a piece of prime real estate in a rapidly developing area, and she wanted it cheaply. "I'm offering $20,000, Jamie. That's $20,000 cash right now for your half. It lets you walk away clean, pay off the back taxes, and have a little left over." "That's 20 grand you don't have," she pushed, leaning forward, her eyes bright and predatory. $20,000. The house, even in its dilapidated state, was appraised at nearly $150,000 for the land alone. The structure itself was easily worth another $50,000. She was offering me 10 cents on the dollar, trying to exploit my grief and my immediate need for liquidity. The inheritance tax had been brutal, and the required repairs were astronomical. I was strapped, desperate, and overwhelmed. Selling my half to a stranger was unthinkable, but selling it to Chloe for a pittance felt like the ultimate betrayal of Dad's memory. $20,000? I repeated, my voice barely a whisper, trying to keep the tremors out of it. "Chloe, that's an insult. It's worth 10 times that." She sighed dramatically, leaning back against the refrigerator, crossing her arms. "It's worth what someone is willing to pay, and the only one willing to buy is me. Trust me, if you try to put that thing on the open market, it'll take 6 months and you'll spend half the profit just fixing it up enough to satisfy an inspection. And who's going to live in it while you wait? You can't live there. The roof leaks." She knew how to hit me where it hurt. I had been planning to move down there permanently, to embrace the beach life Dad had always loved. But the thought of patching that ancient roof myself felt like trying to stop the tide with a teaspoon. I felt the familiar weight of anxiety settle on my chest, the feeling of drowning in paperwork and structural problems. "I'm not selling it for $20,000, Chloe. Absolutely not." I stood up, pushing my chair back. I needed to leave before I broke down. This wasn't a negotiation. It was an ambush. "Fine," she sniffed, reaching for her phone. "Then enjoy paying those back taxes by the end of the month, Jamie. When the county puts a lien on it, don't come crying to me. The offer is on the table, but it drops by $500 every week you wait." I walked out of her sterile palace, the humid Florida air feeling like a cool balm compared to the icy atmosphere inside. I drove aimlessly for an hour, the memory of her condescending tone echoing in my ears. $20,000. She was trying to buy my history, my sanctuary, for the cost of a used compact car. I knew I had to act, and fast. I couldn't let her win, not because of the money, but because she represented everything Dad hated. Cold calculation over heart. I drove straight down to Port St. Joe. I needed to see the house, to feel the sand under my feet, to remind myself what I was fighting for. When I got there, the neglect was undeniable. A window pane on the seaward side was cracked. The porch railing was definitely rotting through. But stepping inside, the scent of salt, old wood, and Dad's pipe tobacco was still there, instantly comforting. I pulled out my laptop and stared at my bank account, then at the tax bill. Chloe was right. I was short. Dangerously short. I needed a miracle, or at least a plan that didn't involve selling my soul to my sister. I spent the next 2 days going through Dad's old filing cabinets in the attic, searching for anything, old savings bonds, an insurance policy, anything he might have forgotten. I found a mountain of dusty, irrelevant junk, old fishing licenses, faded photos of Mom, tax returns from the 80s. I was about to give up when I pulled out a heavy, canvas-backed portfolio that had been tucked under a pile of nautical charts. It wasn't labeled. It was secured with a piece of twine. Inside, I found blueprints. Not the original house blueprints, which were stored elsewhere, but completely new ones. They were modern, sleek, and bore a recent date, just 3 months before Dad passed. They detailed a towering structure, something that looked more like a luxury condo building than our quaint beach cottage. I looked closer. The title read, Coastal Development Project, Max and Son, the Sandcastle. The drawings showed a 5-story building. The ground floor was parking and storage. The next 4 were spacious, open-plan condo units with floor-to-ceiling windows. The top unit, clearly marked in Dad's familiar handwriting, was labeled Penthouse, owner-occupied. Below the drawings, there was a stack of official documents from the county zoning and building department. My heart started to pound. Dad had been secretive in his last year, always disappearing to run errands, but I thought he was just fishing. He wasn't fishing. I started ripping through the documents, my fingers trembling as I sought out the crucial pages. Variance requests, environmental impact statements, coastal setback calculations. And then, I found it. A thick, official-looking document with a seal and bold black letters stamped across the top. Approved. My breath hitched. My father hadn't just dreamed of building something big on this land. He had gone through the nightmare of zoning and permitting and had actually succeeded. He hadn't just secured approval for a 2-story addition. He had approval for a 5-story, multi-unit residential building. The coastal zoning rules in that area were notoriously strict, making this approval priceless. It meant the land, currently valued at $150,000 as a single-family lot, could now support a multi-million-dollar development. I scanned the final page again, reading the name of the approval recipient, Max and Jamie Thompson. Dad had included me, even in his secret plans. I quickly did a rough calculation based on the current price of new condos in the nearest developed area. 4 units, each easily selling for $350,000 to $450,000. Even the cheapest estimate put the gross potential value of this single piece of paper, this single approval, at well over $1.4 million. The approval itself, the permit to build something this high right on the water, was an asset worth hundreds of thousands before a single nail was hammered. I looked back at the title of the document. Project approved, estimated value of permit, $400,000. I sat back on the dusty floor, the blueprints spread around me like a roadmap to an impossible future. $20,000. Chloe had offered me $20,000 for my half of a property that was sitting on a $500,000 development permit. This wasn't just a win, it was a nuclear deterrent. I felt a cold calm settle over me, replacing the anxiety. The game had changed. I was no longer the desperate little sister. I was an equal partner in a development opportunity she didn't even know existed. I knew exactly what I had to do next. I needed to call Chloe, but this time I wouldn't be begging. I would be dictating the terms. The sun was setting over the Gulf, and the leaky old beach house felt less like a relic and more like a fortress. The battle wasn't over, but I had just found the keys to the armory. I folded the documents carefully, a slow smile spreading across my face. Chloe was about to learn that she had severely underestimated her little brother. I drove back to the city the next morning, the canvas portfolio containing the blueprints and the coveted county approval riding shotgun. I didn't call Chloe immediately. I knew that the minute she realized the property's true value, her opportunistic nature would kick in. and she'd try to find a loophole, a technicality, anything to invalidate the documents or pressure me into selling my share at a low rate before the market realized what we had. This was not just about the money anymore. It was about respect, about protecting Dad's legacy, and about finally standing up to the sister who had treated me like a financial burden and an emotional punching bag since we were teenagers. First, I needed to confirm everything was airtight. I spent the entire morning at the county clerk's office, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and dread. I presented the official approved document and asked for confirmation. The clerk, a weary-looking woman named Doris, keyed in the parcel number. The moment the information popped up on her screen, her eyes widened. "Well, bless your heart," she murmured, adjusting her glasses. "This is quite something. A 5-story variance on a Type B coastal parcel. Your father must have had the patience of a saint, or a really, really good lawyer, or both." She confirmed that the approval was valid, officially issued 3 months prior, and was attached to the deed. Crucially, it was non-transferable without the sale of the land, meaning it was impossible for Chloe to try and acquire the permit separately. The building permit application was still active. I asked about the deadlines. "You have 2 years from the approval date to commence significant construction," Doris informed me. I still had 21 months. That was more than enough time. The second stop was the lawyer who had handled Dad's estate and the initial tax filings. Mr. Henderson, a stoic man who usually spoke in dreary legal monotone, nearly choked on his coffee when I laid the documents on his mahogany desk. He spent 30 minutes poring over the paperwork, running verification checks on the county's online portal, and cross-referencing zoning codes. "Mr. Thompson," he finally said, looking at me over his spectacles, his voice betraying genuine shock. "This is remarkable. Your father accomplished something truly exceptional here. The value of this property didn't just double. It multiplied tenfold the moment this permit was stamped. Your sister is offering you $20,000 for your half? That's predatory. The approval itself, the permit for a 5-story multi-unit structure in that specific zone, easily carries an intangible value of $400,000, as your father estimated, because of the time and complexity saved. The total land and permit value for the 50-50 division is likely north of $550,000 before you even break ground. The property is no longer a beach shack. It's a shovel-ready development site." I felt a surge of validation so strong it almost brought me to my knees. The fear and desperation that had gripped me since Dad's death finally evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard determination. I asked Mr. Henderson to draft a formal letter. Not a threat, but a statement of fact, clearly outlining the validated existence and value of the 5-story permit, confirming the joint ownership, and formally rejecting Chloe's insultingly low offer. He smiled, the first genuine smile I had ever seen on his face. "I think it's time your sister realizes she's playing chess, not checkers, Mr. Thompson. I'll have this couriered to her residence by the end of the day." Later that afternoon, armed with legal protection and undeniable facts, I finally called Chloe. The phone rang 3 times before she answered, her voice clipped and impatient. "Jamie, you're calling back about the offer, I assume? Good. It's now $9,500. Time is money, you know." I took a deep breath, picturing the look on Doris's face at the county office, the astonishment in Mr. Henderson's eyes. I had to resist the urge to shout or gloat. I needed to be calm, professional, and devastatingly factual. "Actually, Chloe, I'm calling to tell you that I've rejected your offer of $20,000 for my half of the Port St. Joe property, and I'm also rejecting your new offer of $19,500, I said, keeping my voice level and controlled. A tense silence stretched across the line. Then she let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. "You what? Jamie, stop playing games. You're broke. You have 2 weeks until the tax deadline. What magical solution did you conjure up? An inheritance from a Nigerian prince?" "There's no magic, Chloe. Just Dad's foresight. You'll be receiving a letter from Mr. Henderson later this evening. It will explain everything, but I want you to hear it from me first. Dad wasn't just sitting on that dilapidated shack. He was working for a year to get a massive variance approved by the county. I found the documents. We have full, finalized approval to demolish the existing structure and build a 5-story multi-unit residential building on that parcel. The line was dead quiet this time. I could almost hear the calculation running in her head, the sudden realization that the dilapidated shack she wanted to steal was actually a gold mine. A 5-story building? That's impossible, she finally sputtered, her voice losing its edge of practiced boredom and cracking with genuine shock. The zoning there hasn't allowed anything over 2 stories for 30 years. You're lying, Jamie. Check the letter, Chloe. Mr. Henderson has verified the documents with the county. The permit is approved, active, and legally tied to the land. The building permit is for a 5-unit structure, giving the property a conservative development potential value of over $1.4 million. The permit itself, the piece of paper Dad worked so hard for, is valued by the county at $400,000 because of the extreme difficulty in obtaining it. You were trying to buy my $275,000 asset for $20,000. I paused, letting that number hang in the air, a sword of Damocles swinging over her arrogance. I am not broke, Chloe. I am a joint owner of a development site worth significantly more than your entire retirement portfolio, and unlike you, I have the key documents in my possession. Her reply was swift and venomous, laced with a desperation that was both ugly and deeply satisfying. You think you can handle a multi-million-dollar development, Jamie? You, the guy who writes blogs about obscure historical figures? You won't last 6 months. Contractors will eat you alive. Environmental laws will trip you up. You'll be bankrupt before the foundation is poured. Sell your half to me now. I'll raise my offer. Tell me the truth. What's the real number? The real number is that I'm not selling, I stated firmly. Dad left it to both of us, and I intend to honor his vision. This is no longer a negotiation. It's a partnership. I'm giving you 2 options, and you have until the end of the business day tomorrow to choose. I waited for her furious, panicked objection, and then laid out the choices I had worked out with Mr. Henderson, options that would protect me and fulfill Dad's dream, regardless of Chloe's reaction. The true battle for the Sandcastle was about to begin. Listen carefully, Chloe, because I won't repeat this, and the timeline is non-negotiable, I continued, ignoring her sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. I knew she was about to explode, but I had to maintain the upper hand. The leverage the permit gave me was psychological as much as financial. We are 50-50 partners. That means we proceed together or we don't proceed at all. I have the documents and I have legal counsel who confirms that any attempt to obstruct the development process will result in a messy and costly legal action, where the true value of the asset, which you tried to steal for $20,000, will be made very public. I paused, letting her imagine the local newspaper headlines and the social embarrassment, which for Chloe was a fate worse than bankruptcy. I then laid out the 2 choices I had prepared with Mr. Henderson. Option 1 is a full 50-50 partnership development. We hire a management firm, use the value of the approved permit as equity to secure a construction loan, and we build Dad's 5-story structure, the Sandcastle, together. We share the risk and we share the profits. Based on conservative estimates, your share of the net profit would be in the vicinity of $500,000, maybe more, after all costs. $500,000, she whispered, the sheer dollar amount finally silencing her reflexive anger. The shift from offering me $20,000 to potentially earning $500,000 was enough to short-circuit her brain. But I don't know anything about construction, Jamie. And you're a writer. We'd need a massive loan. The bank won't give us that kind of money without collateral, and the house is basically a teardown. The bank is highly interested, I countered, feeling a rush of confidence. I hadn't mentioned this to her yet. After the lawyer confirmed the permit, I had spent 2 hours on the phone with the development loan officer Mr. Henderson recommended. The permit was the collateral. A 5-story, fully approved residential development in that zone is a unicorn. The permit is the value. The loan officer practically offered us a pre-approval over the phone, contingent on both owners signing the application. The funds will easily cover the initial tax debt and the full build-out. We hire a professional project manager, Chloe. We don't swing hammers. We manage the investment. That's option 1. And option 2? She asked, her voice tight, a cold, calculating edge returning to it. Option 2 is a buyout. but on my terms this time. The property, with the permit, is now valued conservatively at $550,000 as a development site. If you want to buy my share and take on the project yourself, the price is $275,000. Cash, within 30 days. No negotiation, no delays. That includes an immediate payment to cover the outstanding tax debt, plus a $50,000 non-refundable earnest deposit payable within 48 hours to secure the deal and prove you're serious. I knew option 2 was a long shot. Chloe had significant assets, but coming up with $275,000 cash in 30 days, plus securing the massive construction loan, would be a stretch, even for her. It was really a pressure tactic, a way to force her into option 1. I'm giving you until 5 p.m. tomorrow to decide, Chloe. This is a real business opportunity, not a playground scrap. If you reject both options, Mr. Henderson will initiate proceedings for a forced sale, a partition sale of the property. It will be sold on the open market, complete with the 5-story permit attached. We will both lose control. The public will know the exact value and will split the profit after a massive capital gains tax hit. I'm giving you a chance to keep Dad's legacy in the family and make a substantial, clean profit. What's your answer? She didn't answer right away. I could hear her sharp, agitated breathing. Then, the line went dead. She had hung up. I immediately called Mr. Henderson and updated him, including the fact that she had hung up on the presentation of the ultimatum. Excellent, he said simply. Silence is compliance, or in this case, sheer shock. We proceed with the plan. She needs to understand that you are prepared to act, not just talk. I've already sent the formal letter with the county validation attached. Now we wait. I didn't just wait. I mobilized. I knew Chloe, and I knew she would spend the night calling every developer, every lawyer, and every zoning official she knew, trying to find a crack in my story. I needed to move faster. I called the loan officer again and officially submitted the initial paperwork using the approved permit documentation as the primary asset. I contacted the 4 best construction project management firms in the region, setting up immediate meetings. I started researching architects familiar with modern coastal construction, pulling up Dad's exact blueprints and making notes. The project wasn't just a fantasy anymore. It was rapidly becoming a tangible, complex reality. The next morning, the phone rang precisely at 8:02 a.m. It was Chloe, her voice ragged and tight, stripped of its usual veneer of superiority. The letter arrived, she stated, bypassing any pleasantries. The lawyer, the stamp is real. How did Dad do that, Jamie? Nobody gets a 5-story variance there. He did the hard work, and now we benefit from it, I replied, keeping my tone strictly professional. I want option 1, she spat out, the acceptance of a partnership feeling like a concession of defeat. But I have conditions. I am not putting a dime of my own cash into this beyond the tax payment. You handle the day-to-day management, and I get the first choice of the penthouse unit once it's finished. Her conditions were predictable. She wanted the reward without the effort, and the penthouse was Dad's dream unit, the one marked owner-occupied. No, I stated immediately. We are 50-50 partners, Chloe. That means we both sign the tax payment check, and we share the burden of signing the construction loan. I will handle the management. Yes, that's my proposed contribution. But the penthouse, Unit 501, was Dad's vision for himself. I was the one he shared the plans with, and I will be the one living there. We will draw straws for the other 4 units, or sell them all and split the cash. Unit 501 is non-negotiable. It stays with the managing partner, me, for my sweat equity. If you want 501, you choose option 2 and buy me out. Another pregnant silence. I knew I had her. The potential profit of option 1 was too massive for her to walk away from, and buying me out would drain her immediate liquidity. She wanted the prize, but she also couldn't resist the easy, multi-$100,000 profit. I waited, the rhythm of the waves hitting the distant beach house already thrumming in my ears. I felt the power shift completely. I was no longer the little brother she could fleece. I was her business partner, holding the most valuable card in the deck, Dad's secret. Fine, Jamie. Fine, Chloe finally conceded, the word sounding like broken glass. The resignation in her voice was absolute music to my ears. Option 1. We develop. But everything needs to be in writing. I want a contract stipulating every single responsibility, every draw of capital, and clear terms for the eventual liquidation or retention of the other units. And I want assurances that you are not going to botch this with your obscure historical figures approach to business. Mr. Henderson is drafting the partnership agreement right now, I replied smoothly. It will stipulate everything, including a provision that any major decision, like selecting the contractor or securing the final loan, requires both signatures. That protects both of us. As for my competence, I've already contacted 4 reputable construction management firms recommended by Mr. Henderson, and I have the loan officer on standby. I'm moving with professional speed, Chloe. You can check my work at every step. Securing the partnership was the first hurdle, but the next was the most difficult, dealing with Chloe's inherent nature. She was a micromanager and a skeptic, a person who inherently distrusted anyone she couldn't control. I knew she wouldn't truly trust me until she saw hard results, and she would be looking for any sign of weakness or error. The risk of her attempting to sabotage the project or force a sale later on was still present. The first step was the property tax. As promised, I sent her the wire transfer information for her half of the overdue amount, along with a copy of the final payoff statement. Within an hour, her half was deposited into the escrow account. It was the first true indication that she saw this as a serious, profitable venture, not just a way to squeeze me out. The tax lion threat was neutralized. The deadline was met. Next came the official partnership meeting, which Mr. Henderson insisted on holding in his office. Chloe arrived looking impeccably tailored, but radiating suspicion. She brought her own attorney, Mr. Davies, a man whose stern expression suggested he hadn't smiled since the Clinton administration. The atmosphere was thick with mutual distrust. We spent 4 tense hours going over the contract. Mr. Henderson had crafted an ironclad agreement, 50-50 profit split. Me as the active project manager receiving a small monthly stipend for my time, and a clause that Unit 501, the Penthouse, would be my residential unit upon completion, counted at fair market value against my half of the final profits. This meant I couldn't pocket the full sale price of the unit, but I secured the house, which was the most important thing. Chloe's attorney argued fiercely over the Penthouse clause, insisting it was favoritism, but I held firm. The Penthouse is my compensation for managing $1 million project and paying off the back taxes, which your client was trying to stick me with, I stated clearly. Take it or leave it. This is Dad's dream, and I'm seeing it through on site. After a sharp, whispered argument between Chloe and Mr. Davies, she reluctantly signed. With the legal framework secured, we moved on to the crucial, immediate action, securing the construction loan. The meeting with the bank was surprisingly smooth, thanks entirely to the zoning approval. The bank's risk assessment team viewed the 5-story permit as a near guarantee of profit. The ability to build 5 luxury units on a lot where comparable properties were restricted to 2 stories created a massive, immediate equity spike. We were approved for a construction loan of $1.2 million, to be released in draws, secured against the land and the approved plans. Chloe was noticeably quieter during the bank meeting. She seemed overwhelmed by the professionalism and the scale of the money involved. She wasn't used to seeing me operate in this arena. The moment the loan agreement was signed, she turned to me, a grudging hint of respect in her eyes. You actually did it, Jamie. You got the money. Dad got the hard part done, Chloe. I'm just executing the vision, I replied. The real twist, the one that blindsided even Mr. Henderson, came a week later during the first official site survey. We had hired a specialist engineering firm to assess the existing foundation and conduct environmental checks before demolition. I joined the surveyor, a pragmatic man named Frank, at the beach house. As he was drilling core samples near the foundation, Frank paused, wiped sweat from his brow, and looked up at me with a puzzled expression. Mr. Thompson, did your father ever do any major work on the foundation that wasn't recorded? He asked. Not that I know of. Why? Frank pointed to the core sample he had just extracted. This isn't just old concrete. This is a mix that includes high-density basalt aggregate. And the depth. The footings are easily twice as deep as standard 1950s construction in this area. Look at the structural integrity. This foundation is solid. It's built to withstand a Category 3 hurricane, easily. It wasn't built for the old shack. It was built for something much, much bigger. He pulled out another old drawing he had found in the site file. A schematic drawn by Dad himself, labeled simply, Base Fortification. It detailed massive pilings sunk deeper than required, a steel-reinforced slab, and the specialized concrete mix. The foundation wasn't just existing, it was over-engineered. Dad hadn't just secured the permit, he had secretly started the most crucial, most expensive, and most difficult part of the new build, the foundation itself, under the guise of patching up the old shack over the last year of his life. This realization was a game changer. The foundation work alone would have cost at least $150,000 in the initial phase of the construction loan. Dad had paid for it out of his own pocket, eliminating a massive chunk of the project's risk and initial cost. The $1.2 million construction loan was now $150,000 over budgeted, meaning we had a substantial, immediate working capital reserve before breaking ground on the structure. The dilapidated shack was sitting on a fortress, a hidden asset that amplified the value of the permit exponentially. I realized with a chill that Dad hadn't just left me a house. He had left me a fully funded, half-built dream, shielded from Chloe's greedy eyes. The discovery of the hidden, over-engineered foundation changed everything, morphing the entire project from a highly speculative venture into a near-certain financial windfall. I immediately called Mr. Henderson, who was utterly floored. "Your father was a genius, Jamie," he exclaimed. "He secured the impossible permit, and then he eliminated the riskiest, most expensive phase of coastal construction, all while keeping it completely off the official record until now. This is more than just money. This proves he intended for you, specifically, to take the lead on this project. He set you up for success." I also immediately called Chloe, but not with the full truth. I knew if she realized Dad had fronted $150,000 worth of foundational work, she would demand that money be factored into the initial distribution, or she would question why she hadn't been informed. I needed to leverage this new advantage to accelerate the process and solidify my control, not to open a new financial argument. "Chloe, good news," I said, keeping my tone measured. The site survey came back, and the existing foundation is in far better shape than anyone anticipated. Frank, the engineer, thinks we can retain the slab and the main pilings, which will save us at least $100,000 in demolition and initial pouring costs. We're already $100,000 ahead of schedule and budget. The lie was strategic. Giving her the slightly lower, slightly less incredible number made it sound like good management, not a secret inheritance windfall. "100,000? She asked, instantly suspicious. "Show me the reports, Jamie. I want to see the engineer's full findings." I don't trust this good news from a man who writes about dead kings. "The full technical report is available to you, Chloe, but you'll have to come to Mr. Henderson's office to view it," I said, knowing she hated taking time out of her busy, luxurious schedule. "But the bottom line is, this means we can select the project manager and begin demolition next week, rather than waiting 3 weeks for further site prep. We need to sign the final contract with Coastal Builders immediately to lock in the timeline and the price. I need your digital signature by the end of the day." I pushed the narrative of speed and efficiency. She was greedy, and the thought of saving $100,000 while starting the profitable construction sooner was a lure she couldn't resist, despite her suspicions. She grumbled, but 40 minutes later, the signed construction contract arrived in my inbox. We had locked down the builder and the timeline. Demolition was scheduled for the following Monday. The next few months were a blur of permits, meetings, and early construction. As the old, familiar beach house was methodically stripped down and then finally demolished, I felt a pang of sadness, but also immense excitement. The new structure rose quickly, the deep, secure footings supporting the heavy steel frame with absolute confidence. I was at the site every day, not just as the manager, but as the protector of Dad's dream. I watched the first floor take shape, then the second, soaring higher than any other building on the block. The neighbors complained, but the 5-story permit, was the iron shield protecting us. Chloe, true to form, stayed largely out of the process, viewing me as an information pipeline. She demanded weekly, detailed financial reports, which I happily provided, knowing every number was solid. She flew down for site visits only twice, each time wearing impractical shoes and expressing thinly veiled shock that I hadn't, in fact, bankrupted us yet. During her second visit, as we stood on the concrete slab of what would be the fourth-floor unit, she finally saw the magnitude of the project. "This view," she breathed, looking out over the uninterrupted expanse of the Gulf. Dad was right. It's magnificent. A flicker of something that looked almost like regret crossed her face. "You know, I remember when he first talked about tearing down the old place. I told him he was crazy. I told him he should just sell it to a developer and retire. He wasn't interested in retiring, Chloe. He was interested in building," I reminded her gently. The true moment of reckoning came 6 months later. The structure was topped out, the exterior stucco was applied, and the huge custom windows were being installed. The value had skyrocketed. We had already received 2 unsolicited offers for the unfinished units that exceeded our conservative projected sale price. The project was ahead of schedule and under budget, thanks entirely to Dad's secret foundational work. I called Chloe for a mandatory meeting. This time, I hosted it at the construction site in the fully enclosed, nearly finished penthouse unit, Unit 501. The morning sun poured through the massive windows, illuminating the gleaming hardwood floors and the state-of-the-art kitchen. The view was unparalleled. When Chloe walked in, she didn't even look at me. She simply walked straight to the window and stared out at the Gulf, mesmerized. She was standing in the very space she had tried to buy for $20,000. "It's beautiful, Jamie," she said quietly, her voice sounding genuine for the first time in years. "You did a good job. A very good job." This was my moment. This was the crescendo. "Thank you, Chloe," I said. "And this is where the final accounting comes in. We're on track to clear a net profit of $950,000 on the sale of the 4 commercial units. We split that 50-50. And then there's the buyout of Unit 501. I handed her 2 sheets of paper. The first was a detailed accounting of the $1.2 million construction loan, showing the remaining balance, the low interest rate, and the exact current fair market value of Unit 501, which the bank appraised at $450,000. The second was a single legal document. The partnership contract stipulated that Unit 501 is mine, as compensation for my sweat equity and management, valued against my 50% share of the total profits, I explained. But there's a new variable you don't know about. Remember the $100,000 cost saving I told you about at the beginning? The one I attributed to retaining the old slab? She turned, her eyes narrowed. Yes, the foundation savings. What about it? It wasn't just $100,000 saved, Chloe. And it wasn't luck. Dad didn't just save us money. He spent it. He paid for the entire over-engineered foundation himself before he died, shielding the project from risk. The true cost of that foundational work, which eliminated the riskiest, most expensive phase of the project, was nearly $150,000. He used his own private funds to build the base of this tower before he even secured the loan. I watched the color drain from her face as she processed the double betrayal, Dad's secrecy, and my own deliberate withholding of the information. "He didn't trust me, did he?" she whispered, the question laced with pain, not just greed. "He knew you would try to sell it immediately, Chloe," I said honestly. "He didn't just leave us a building permit. He left me a challenge, a head start, and the ability to keep his vision safe from people who only saw dollar signs. That $150,000 of foundational work he funded is technically an unrecorded capital contribution to the partnership." I pointed to the second document. "That's a lien, Chloe. It legally stipulates that the $150,000 Dad contributed unilaterally to the property is payable to his estate before the 50-50 profit split. And since I am the only surviving heir interested in honoring his memory, Mr. Henderson advises that this amount be deducted from your final distribution to balance the initial capital investment." Chloe's reaction was slow, methodical, and devastatingly quiet. She didn't scream or shout. She simply crumpled the legal document in her hand, her eyes locked on the turquoise horizon. The pain I saw wasn't just about the money she was about to lose. It was the realization that she had been completely outmaneuvered by two people she had consistently underestimated, her deceased father and her younger brother. "He paid for the foundation?" she repeated, the question hollow. "He told me he was spending his weekends fishing, all that time, all that money. He was building this for you, wasn't he? He wanted you to have the penthouse. He wanted me to fail, to buy you out." "He wanted us to build it, Chloe," I corrected, though I knew the partial truth of her statement. "He left it to us, but he also created the perfect insurance policy to ensure that no one, not even you, could seize control and sell it for scrap value. That $150,000, which he hid so well, ensured we got the massive loan and gave me the leverage to manage the project successfully. It ensures that his vision, including Unit 501, stayed in the family. The lien simply balances the scales based on Dad's unrecorded contribution." I handed her the second detailed accounting sheet, which summarized the final distribution, factoring in the $150,000 capital contribution deduction. "Our total net profit from the 4 units is $950,000. Your 50% share is $475,000. However, after deducting Dad's $150,000 contribution to the foundation, your net payout is reduced to $325,000. My 50% share is still $475,000, which covers the final $25,000 capital contribution to the lien, and the remaining $450,000 is accounted for by the fair market value of this unit, Unit 501. My financial obligation is met, and I own the penthouse clear of encumbrance." I watched her eyes scan the numbers. The initial shock gave way to the cold, rational assessment of a savvy businesswoman. Even with the deduction, $325,000 was a massive profit for zero effort, zero risk, and zero personal cash investment beyond the initial tax payment. She had turned a $20,000 gamble into a $325,000 payday in less than a year. The numbers, though reduced, were still overwhelmingly positive. "And if I refuse to sign off on this lien?" she finally challenged, folding her arms. "Then we stop today," I replied, calm and unwavering. "Mr. Henderson forces a partition sale. We sell the 4 completed units, and we sell Unit 501. The market value of all 5 units is easily $2.5 million. But after brokerage fees, capital gains tax on the total profit, and the legal costs of the partition suit, which would be substantial and public, you would likely walk away with closer to $200,000. You'll spend 6 months in court, destroy any goodwill in the family, and lose the chance for a clean, immediate wire transfer of $325,000. It's a bad business decision, Chloe. For once, just take the profit." I didn't need to say more. She knew I was right. The clean, immediate payout was far superior to the chaotic, messy, and financially uncertain litigation. She took a deep breath, smoothing out the crumpled paper in her hand. "Where do I sign?" she asked, the defeat in her voice palpable. I produced the final closing document. She signed the lien agreement and the final distribution agreement without looking at me. She signed away her claim to the house, to the memory, and to the last bit of leverage she thought she had. 2 days later, the wire transfer for $325,000 arrived in Chloe's account, and the title for Unit 501, the Sandcastle Penthouse, was solely in my name. I never saw her at the beach house again. The last time we spoke was a terse phone call a month after closing. She was polite, professional, and distant. She had taken the profit and moved on to her next venture, leaving Dad's legacy, the building, and the memories entirely to me. Standing now in the massive, sun-drenched living room of Unit 501, looking out at the endless Gulf of Mexico, I often think back to that day in Chloe's kitchen. She offered me $20,000 for my share of a property that was, unbeknownst to her, already worth over $500,000 due to a secret approved zoning variance, and which contained a hidden $150,000 foundational investment from my father. It wasn't just the $275,000 difference in value or the eventual profit I secured that mattered. It was the moment I realized that Dad hadn't just left me a problem. He had left me a plan. He had trusted me, the writer, the guy who writes about dead kings, to finish his greatest work. He gave me the permit, the collateral, and the secret knowledge to face down the only person who would have destroyed his dream for a quick buck. I walk out onto the huge balcony, the fresh sea air whipping past me. The building is magnificent, a testament to Dad's foresight and my determination. It is the Sandcastle, and it is finally complete. I didn't just inherit a home, I inherited the strength to fight for it. Every wave breaking on the shore is a reminder that the biggest rewards often hide in the most unlikely places, concealed from those blinded by easy greed, only revealing their true value to those willing to dig beneath the surface.